I used to believe family meant something. Not the Hallmark card kind of family, just the basic stuff. Being there for each other, showing up, sharing meals and birthdays. That kind of thing. So when all that started slipping away from me and nobody wanted to explain why, I felt like I was losing more than just time with my grandsons. I was losing the last steady piece of my life. My name is Lucas. I'm 60 years old and retired from a long run as a mechanic. I live just outside St. Paul, Minnesota, in a house my late wife and I bought together back when we were still figuring out how to be adults. She's been gone 8 years now, but I've kept her memory alive the way we used to, by restoring old bikes in the garage out back. It's not much of a business anymore, but it keeps me busy. Pays for what I need. And for a while, it helped me feel useful to my son Brian and his family. Brian's a good kid. Or at least he used to be. He's 35 now, married to Denise, and they have 2 boys, Jeremy, 7, and Cody, 5. I've done what I can to support them, probably more than I should have. Paid off their credit cards when they were first starting out. Helped with a down payment on their house. Covered some hospital bills when Cody got sick and their insurance hit the cap. And more recently, after Brian lost his job during that bad economic slump last year, I started sending money every month. Quietly. Just enough to keep them floating. I never expected anything in return. Just to see my grandsons once in a while. Hear their stories. Maybe teach them how to change oil or take apart an old Honda. But then Denise started canceling visits. First it was the flu. Then a friend's wedding. Then the boys had a birthday party or some kind of stomach bug. Every time I offered to swing by instead, she had a reason I shouldn't. They need rest. We're behind on laundry. This week's just too crazy. It got to the point where I hadn't seen the boys in nearly 2 months. For no real reason at all. I tried not to overthink it. Denise had never been warm to me even back when Brian first brought her home. She smiled with her mouth but not her eyes, always watched me a little too closely like she was waiting for me to mess up. Still, I never thought she'd flat out block me from seeing my grandsons, not after everything I'd done to help. I asked Brian about it. Just casually one evening on the phone. Hey, I said, haven't seen the boys in a bit. You think maybe I could come by next weekend? Bring some of the old model kits they liked. There was a long pause before he answered. Yeah, maybe, he said. Things have just been hectic. Denise's schedule is kind of slammed right now. You know how it is. Except I didn't. Not really. Still, I let it go. I figured maybe I was just being paranoid. But then Mother's Day came and went and I didn't get a call. Not from Brian. Not from the boys. Nothing. Not even a Happy Granddad's Day card like they used to send me with crayon drawings and backwards letters. That's when I started paying closer attention. I noticed Denise had unfollowed me on social media. Not that I posted much, but I used to comment on pictures she'd share, the boys at soccer, Jeremy with a lost tooth. Now those pictures weren't showing up at all. Either she blocked me or changed the privacy settings. I sat alone in the garage one night, holding a rusted sprocket in my hands, trying to convince myself I hadn't imagined the distance. But it was real. Something had changed. And if it wasn't just busy schedules, if it wasn't the flu or laundry or errands, then what the hell was it? The garage felt cold that night, even with the spring air outside. I looked around at the workbench, the scattered wrenches, the half-finished dirt bike that Jeremy had once helped me paint. That's when it hit me, she wasn't just keeping the boys busy. Denise was cutting me out. And I didn't know why. The next week I tried again. I sent a text to Brian, keeping it simple. Hey, was thinking I could swing by Saturday afternoon. Just for an hour or so. Miss the boys. Let me know what works. He didn't reply that day. Or the next. By Thursday, I sent a follow-up. You see my message? Just want to make sure I'm not missing something. That's when he finally called. His voice was tired, like he was already bracing for a fight. Yeah, I saw it, he said. Sorry, I didn't respond. It's just. Denise thinks it's not a great time right now. Is everyone okay? I asked. Yeah, it's just, we've got a lot going on. Denise has been super stressed lately. The boys are overloaded with school stuff. School stuff? Jeremy's in 2nd grade, I said. I didn't mean to sound sharp, but come on, it was getting ridiculous. Brian let out a breath. Dad, I don't want to get into it. She's doing her best. Can you just trust me that this isn't personal? That was the thing, I wanted to believe him. But nothing about this felt neutral anymore. It felt coordinated. I hung up that night and went out to the garage. The boys' little toolboxes were still under the workbench, right where they'd left them the last time they came over. Jeremy had a blue set with a name tag sticker that said J-Man. Cody's was green, his screwdrivers all mismatched from when he insisted on customizing his set with ones from mine. They used to love coming here. Not even a year ago, they were in this garage every other weekend, helping me clean carburetors, sitting on overturned milk crates while I explained how an engine breathes. We built a soapbox racer once, won second place at the county fair, and now I couldn't even get them to stop by for an hour. That night, I started writing things down, not out of anger, just to make sense of it all. I opened a fresh notebook and titled the page, Things That Changed. March, Denise canceled Cody's birthday lunch, said he had a bad cold. No photo updates. April, Brian said they'd catch me next time for Easter. May, no call for Mother's Day. May 17th, Facebook, Denise's page no longer shows posts. Possibly blocked? At first, it felt silly, like I was journaling a breakup. But I needed to see it on paper. I needed to know I wasn't imagining things. Because deep down, I had this gnawing feeling that none of this was accidental. Denise wasn't just busy. She was building a wall. And Brian? He was holding the ladder. It was a Tuesday night when my phone lit up with Denise's name. I almost didn't answer, figured it was another cancellation or some vague excuse I'd have to pretend to believe. But when I picked up, it wasn't Denise's voice I heard. Grandpa? My heart stopped. Jeremy? I asked, sitting up straight in my recliner. Yeah. I'm on Mom's phone. She's in the kitchen. I could barely hear him. He was whispering like he was hiding in a closet. I missed the garage, he said. Can I come over? Please? I blinked fast, trying to steady my voice. Of course you can, buddy. I've still got your toolbox under the bench. And the racer's still here. I want to help finish the red bike, he whispered. The one with the dent in the tank. I didn't forget. My throat tightened. You remember that? Yeah. You said I could paint the flames. But... He paused. I kept my voice gentle. Do Mom and Dad know you're calling me? There was a long silence on the other end. Then he whispered, I gotta go, and hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time after that. His name still glowed on the screen like it hadn't sunk in yet. I sat there with my hands shaking because as small as that moment was, it told me everything I needed to know. The boys missed me. This wasn't just me feeling left out or reading too much into things. They were feeling it too, and they weren't allowed to say it. I could have let it go. Just sat in that sadness and pretended it would pass. But I couldn't. Not after that. So I wrote a message, short, calm, careful. Sent it to both Brian and Denise. Got a call from Jeremy tonight. I didn't know he had your phone. He said he misses the garage. I just want to talk if there's something going on. I'm here. Always have been. I didn't expect a warm reply. I wasn't even sure I'd get one. But what came the next morning knocked the air out of me. Denise sent a long email. No greeting. No warmth. Just venom. She accused me of manipulating Jeremy. Said I was crossing boundaries. You've made it clear you think you know what's best for our family, she wrote. But what you're doing is toxic. You're trying to turn our kids against us. She called me overbearing. Said I made them uncomfortable. Claimed I was inserting myself into parenting decisions that weren't mine to make. And then she ended it with, you're not entitled to these boys just because you helped us financially. Love doesn't buy rights. I sat there frozen, reading it 3 times. I wasn't angry. Not at first. Just stunned. I called Brian that afternoon, hoping, praying he'd have something different to say. Something softer. He answered, his voice low. She's upset, he said. She found out about the call and just lost it. Is any of it true? I asked. Do you really think I'm toxic? He sighed. It's not that. She thinks the boys like being with you more than her. She says it's like they light up around you and then come home and ignore her. I felt sick. So this is about her feeling, what? Inadequate. She feels threatened, Dad, he said quietly. She thinks you're trying to replace her. I couldn't find words. After everything I'd done, all the money, the time, the love, I was being shut out because she was jealous. And Brian? He didn't defend me. He just explained her. I hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I went into the garage, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark. It was the first time I'd cried in years. The call came late, too late for it to be anything good. My phone buzzed just after 10. Denise. I stared at the screen for a moment, debating whether to let it ring. Then I answered. Her voice was sharp the second I said hello. No greeting. No hesitation. How dare you? I sat back in my recliner, staring at the dark TV screen. I'm not sure what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about, she snapped. You crossed the line. You don't get to interfere with how we raise our kids. You think just because you bought a few groceries and helped with the mortgage, that gives you the right to sneak around behind our backs? I kept my tone steady. I didn't sneak around. Jeremy called me. I was surprised as you. Don't play innocent, she said. He doesn't even know how to call you without someone coaching him. And don't tell me this wasn't calculated. You've been trying to worm your way into their heads for years. You always push your stories, your garage, your little traditions like you're the better parent. I rubbed my temple. He's 7, Denise. He wanted to help fix a motorcycle. That's not some elaborate scheme. You're trying to make them love you more than me. The words came out so fast, so hard, I almost missed them. But there it was. The truth. I stayed quiet. That's what this is, isn't it? She went on. You're trying to steal their affection. And I won't let you. You're not welcome in this family anymore. Not in this house. Not around my children. It hit like a slap. Even though I'd seen it coming, it still landed hard. You're really saying that? I asked quietly. After everything? Everything, she scoffed. You mean the money? The gifts? That was your choice, Lucas. Nobody asked you to buy our loyalty. I could feel my heart pounding. I never asked for loyalty, I said. Just respect. A relationship. I never once told those boys to love me. They came to me with open arms and I met them where they were. She hung up without another word. The next morning, Brian showed up at my house. He didn't knock, just stood at the door, looking like he hadn't slept. I'm sorry, he said. She shouldn't have said that. She was just upset. Upset. I said, not hiding the bitterness in my voice. She told me I'm not welcome in your lives anymore, Brian. And you didn't stop her. He looked down. She has the final say. You know how she is when she makes up her mind. I stepped back, folding my arms. So that's it? You're just going along with it. His shoulders slumped. I don't know what else to do. If I push, it just makes things worse at home. That was when I realized something I'd been trying not to see. Brian wasn't just letting this happen. He was choosing to let it. Because it was easier. Easier to lose me than to fight her. That night, I found the old go-kart photo, the one where Jeremy and Cody were covered in grease and smiling like they'd won the Indy 500. They were beaming. Denise hadn't come that day. Said it was too hot outside. That trip, the one they talked about for weeks, that was the beginning. That was when she decided I was competition. And now she declared war. Brian came by the house on a Thursday afternoon. No warning, no call ahead. Just walked in like he used to, except this time he didn't stop in the kitchen or say hello, he went straight to the garage. That's where I was, under the frame of an old Triumph I'd been restoring. He stood there, awkward, hands in his hoodie pockets, shifting from one foot to the other like a kid in trouble. I was hoping you'd still be doing the usual Thursday check, he said, giving a half smile. I slid out from under the bike, wiped my hands on a rag. That right? He looked around the garage. I could tell he was stalling. Look, he said finally, Denise is still upset. Things have been tense. But I wanted to say thanks. For everything. You know, for helping all this time. Especially after I got laid off. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I was gonna pick up the check if that's okay. We've got some stuff piling up, car insurance, utilities, and we're late on the kids' piano lessons again. There it was. No mention of Jeremy's call. No mention of Denise's late-night threat. Just business as usual. I nodded slowly, then walked over to my workbench. Instead of reaching for the checkbook, I pulled open a drawer and took out a plain white envelope. Inside was the note I'd written the night after Denise's call. I handed it to Brian. He opened it, frowned, and read aloud. No respect, no support. That's the new rule. He looked up. What is this? That's my line in the sand, I said. If I'm not welcome in your lives, if I'm just a problem to be managed, then I'm done writing checks to keep things afloat. It's not punishment. It's a boundary. Brian's face tightened. Come on, Dad. You're seriously going to do this to the boys? They didn't do anything. No, I said, but their mother did. And you did too, by staying quiet. You're not asking for help, Brian. You're expecting it while treating me like I don't matter. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. You're gonna let them suffer because you don't like Denise? I took a breath, trying to stay calm. She's not the one suffering. She's still calling the shots, still making sure I'm cut out of the picture. I'm not doing this to hurt anyone. But I won't keep paying to be disrespected. You think this is about money? He snapped. We're drowning, Dad. And I was your life preserver, I said. But you threw me overboard because she told you to. Now you're back asking for the rope again. He looked at me, and for the first time in months, he didn't have a comeback. I pointed to the envelope in his hand. That's all I've got for you now. It's not a check. It's a choice. He left without saying another word. The next day, I opened my bank app. No pending transfers. No new withdrawals. It was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt like peace. Word spread faster than I expected. I wasn't even sure how it started. Maybe Brian vented to a cousin, maybe Denise posted something vague and bitter online. Either way, within a week, people were reaching out. Not to ask how I was doing, no, they wanted to know what really happened. It started with a message from my niece Rachel. "Hey Uncle Lucas, I heard there was some kind of falling out with Brian and Denise. I hope it's not true what she's saying." I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. Denise was rewriting the story, painting me as bitter, controlling, manipulative. Probably spinning the old "he thinks money gives him a say in everything" angle. The one she'd always hinted at when I offered help. I didn't respond. The next day, a friend of mine from the neighborhood stopped by the garage with a six-pack and that look people get when they're trying to act casual. "Lucas," he said after a few sips, "someone told me Denise is saying you're cut off from the boys because you're unstable. That you got aggressive." I stared at him. "Aggressive? Like how?" He winced. "Said you screamed at Jeremy for calling without permission. That you scare the kids." That one hit harder than the rest. Because I'd never once raised my voice to those boys. Not even when they knocked over a full tray of tools or scratched the gas tank on the old Yamaha. I was patient, gentle, the kind of grandfather I wish I'd had. And now she was painting me as a threat. I could have called her. Could have sent emails or posted some long explanation. But what would that do? Nothing. She'd already made up her mind, and worse, she was trying to make up everyone else's too. Instead, I got quiet. I stopped talking about it. I stopped answering questions. And I started doing something else. I joined a vintage car club in town. A real tight-knit group of guys and gals, older folks mostly, who appreciated the sound of an old carburetor and didn't ask about family drama. We'd meet up at the rec center on Tuesdays, trade parts, talk shop. I also signed up to volunteer at a local mentorship program for boys, most of them growing up without a steady father figure. I taught them how to use a wrench, how to patch a tire, how to hold a flashlight where it's actually useful. It wasn't the same, but it was good. I poured my energy where it was wanted. Not into a family that treated me like a burden, but into places that welcomed me with open arms. I missed my grandsons every day. That didn't change. But I didn't let that longing turn into bitterness. Let Denise tell her story. Let people believe whatever version made them feel better. I wasn't going to fight fire with fire. I was building something better. Dignity, peace, and a new chapter of my life where I got to decide what kind of man I was, not her. It had been 3 months since I stopped the money. At first, I thought they might adjust, find other ways to stay afloat. Maybe Denise would pick up part-time work or Brian would swallow his pride and take something less glamorous. But nothing changed, not really. Except now, the silence was thicker. Then one Saturday morning, Brian showed up. I saw him through the front window, standing on the porch, his hands jammed in his pockets. His shoulders were slumped, hoodie wrinkled, face drawn. I opened the door, said nothing, and stepped aside. He walked in like he used to, but it felt different now, like he wasn't sure he still had permission. We sat in the kitchen. He didn't touch the coffee I poured. "They cut off our water for a few hours last week," he said. Cody cried. He thought we'd done something wrong. I nodded but said nothing. He waited for me to jump in to offer help. I didn't. "We're behind on everything," he added. "Mortgage, credit cards, the boys had to drop out of swim and karate. Jeremy just sits in his room now. Denise says it's your fault." I let out a breath. Denise hasn't worked since Cody was born. That was 5 years ago. Why isn't she working now? Brian looked away. She's been overwhelmed." "No," I said quietly. "She's been enabled." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "You think this is easy for me?" He snapped. "Watching the boys lose everything? You think I don't want to fix it?" "I think you want someone else to fix it," I replied. "That's what you're here for, right? To get the money, patch the hole, and go back to pretending I don't exist." "That's not true. Isn't it?" He rubbed his face, exhaled hard. "She wants you to pay off the credit card. Just that. Then we can breathe." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so damn predictable. "How much?" I asked. 11 grand, he muttered. "And how much of that is groceries, bills, gas?" He didn't answer. "You don't even know, do you?" I asked. "You're not asking me to save the kids. You're asking me to keep funding her spending." He looked wounded, but I didn't soften. "You think this is about the money," I said. "It's not. It's about who's steering the ship. And right now, you're not driving anything. You're a passenger in your own life." "I'm doing the best I can," he said weakly. "No," I said. "You're doing the most comfortable thing you can. And it's not enough, not for you, and sure as hell not for those boys." He stood to leave. "So you're really not going to help?" "I've been helping," I said, standing too. "For years. But this, letting your wife turn me into a ghost while I bankroll your life? That's not help. That's cowardice." He didn't look back as he walked out. And for once, I didn't feel guilt. Just sorrow, the kind that only comes when someone you love keeps choosing the wrong thing. The email came on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, "For the boys' sake." It was from Denise. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. I wasn't angry, not anymore, just tired. Tired of the cycles, the manipulations dressed up in polite words. And that subject line told me everything I needed to know. She still thought guilt was a currency that worked on me. The message was written in a tone that almost passed for gentle. She even started with, "Hi Lucas," like we hadn't been locked in a Cold War for months. She thanked me vaguely for all I had done in the past. She said things had been difficult lately, that Brian was trying his best, that the boys missed me but were confused about the distance. Then she got to the point. "I know there's been tension, but at the end of the day, we're still family. The boys deserve stability, and I'm just asking if you'd consider helping again. Not for me. Not for Brian. But for Jeremy and Cody." There it was again. The appeal. The implied halo. Not for me, of course. For them. What she never mentioned, not once, was what she had done. The way she'd cut me out, lied to others, made me feel like a stranger to my own family. No apology. No ownership. Just a polished request wrapped in passive language. I didn't reply. Not directly. Instead, I forwarded the email to Brian with a 2-sentence note. If she wants help, she needs to start with honesty. Until then, there's nothing to talk about. No response came. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Brian couldn't defend her anymore, and she couldn't bring herself to say the one thing that mattered. I was wrong. The next day, I met with my accountant. "I want to start a small scholarship fund," I told her. "Just local. For kids who need help getting into trades, mechanics, electricians, that kind of thing. I want to name it after my wife." She smiled, already scribbling notes. "That's beautiful, Lucas. You have something in mind for how much to seed it with?" "Start with 20,000, I said. "And we'll grow from there." It felt right. I had spent years pouring into a family that treated me like a checkbook and a burden all at once. Now, I was redirecting that energy to people who actually needed it and wouldn't turn around and erase me for it. That night, I went out to the garage. The boys' toolboxes were still there. I didn't move them. But I did add a new sign to the wall, an old pine board I sanded down and painted myself. Wallace Legacy Fund, in memory of Marlene Wallace, for those who work with their hands and lead with their heart. That was the kind of legacy worth building. Not with guilt, not with silence, but with purpose. I took my first vacation in almost a decade the week after the scholarship paperwork went through. Just me, my motorcycle, and the open road. It wasn't some grand international escape. I packed light, filled the tank on my old BMW touring bike, and pointed myself toward the northern coast. Highway 61, hugging the edge of Lake Superior. I stopped when I wanted, rode when I felt like it. Ate at diners where no one knew my name, and slept in quiet motels with chipped paint and honest beds. The sky felt wider out there. The air cleaner. Every mile I put between myself and St. Paul felt like a weight sliding off my chest. One night, just outside Two Harbors, I pulled into a little overlook right as the sun dipped low behind the lake. The water looked like glass, tinted gold. I took out my journal, the same one I'd used months ago to list canceled visits and suspicious silences, and turned to the final page. I wrote, "Legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's who remembers how you made them feel." Then I closed the book for good. I'd stopped waiting for Denise to apologize. Stopped hoping Brian would finally push back, be the man I raised. I couldn't control what they did, but I could decide what came next for me. When I got back, I jumped right back into the mentorship program. Saturday mornings, I worked with a group of middle school boys on bikes that barely held together. They showed up in oversized hoodies and hand-me-down shoes, most of them too shy to make eye contact at first. But give a kid a socket wrench and a busted carburetor and something shifts. They ask questions. They listen. And little by little, they open up. One of them, Marcus, reminded me so much of Jeremy it nearly knocked the wind out of me. Same nervous hands, same bright curiosity under all the doubt. But Marcus didn't have a grandpa waiting for him at home. So I did what I could. I gave him the green toolbox Cody used to love. "Don't worry," I told him. "It's got good history. You'll add your own to it." He smiled so wide I thought my heart might crack open. I still miss Jeremy and Cody. Every time I walked into the garage and saw their little helmets on the shelf, I felt that ache. But it didn't own me anymore. Someday, maybe they'll grow up and start asking questions. Maybe they'll knock on my door or look me up. If they do, I'll be here not with bitterness, but with the truth. Until then, I'm not waiting. I'm writing. I'm building. I'm living the kind of life I'd be proud to pass on. Because that's what legacy really is. Not a name in a will. Not a check or a house or a speech. It's love planted deep, left honest, and grown with care.